It's Thursday, it's 8 o'clock, and I can't hear Adrian.
No.
Yep. Oh, it's quiet. You're quiet.
What about now?
There. I can if you go right up to the microphone like that, yes.
Now? What about
no,
now?
You're very quiet.
Now? Oh,
no.
I have.
We're here trying to.
What about now?
What? No.
Now?
No.
Now?
No.
Now?
Then
yeah,
not really.
Little bit.
Very rubbish tonight.
Yeah. Bear with me. Apologies.
I'm bearing. We're trying to impress you.
Yes.
We're trying to show our technical wizardry and genius and forward thinking and other words that I'm trying to think of.
I don't know what's going on. Can you carry on? Sorry.
Okay, I'll carry on.
Sorry.
Well, as I said, it's Thursday, it's 8 o'clock, and it's the Big Detecting Show, and Adrian's here in spirit.
Yes.
And body and mind, but not in voice. He's got such a little voice for somebody from Essex. Now I've got nothing, Adrian. No. We're not impressing anybody, are we? I could say, do you want me to turn mine all the way off as well so we sound the same? Anyway, great show lined up for you this week. Gentleman I met last year at a mysterious Earth conference in Preston is joining us in a moment. Author, explorer, and megalithomaniac, Hugh Newman. Some of you might have seen him on certain TV programs on the History Channel, which we'll come to in a wee while when Adrian gets his voice back. Adrian. Oh, now you put yourself on mute. You've muted yourself. You're still on mute. Can I unmute you? Right, I've unmuted you. You're not plugged in. I'm trying to... Can't unmute your guest. Their mic isn't connected. It's telling me. See you in a minute, Doc. Anyway, let's bring on tonight's guest anyway. While Adrian disappears, I'm going to introduce you to tonight's guest. Good evening, Hugh. Apologies for the brilliant sound quality of my co-host this evening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Thankful that I can hear you.
Yeah, thank God for that. Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, Hugh. We met last year at the Mega Mysterious Earth Conference up in Preston that Neil McDonald organised, and I was. We'll come on to your talk later on because it's obviously what your book was about, but a lot of what you were discussing reminded me of certain things, as I mentioned to you at the conference, and we spoke about you coming on, and obviously tonight we've been able to confirm, and you're here, and I'm very much looking forward to it, as I know very many other regular viewers are as well. So, briefly, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. My name's Hugh Newman. I'm from Cambridge originally, based very close to Stonehenge now, and I've got the latest thing I've been up to is this. This is the book, The Giants of Stonehenge in Ancient Britain, co-authored with Jim Vieira, who I've been working with on other books and projects for many years. And we're going to be doing more research on this. But I'm the co-founder of the Megalithomaniac conference. That's been running since 2006. We just had a big one, the biggest one we've ever had, actually, just in May, just last month. So that was pretty epic. I'm involved in a few TV things as well, like the kind of notorious Ancient Aliens, amongst other things. And I'm busy researching some new projects at the moment. Going to be presenting some of the new stuff at the Awakening Expo, the Chariots of Gods event up in Blackpool later this month. So that'll be fun, and that's going to be epic, that one as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a good old kind of Ancient Aliens Gaia TV get together.
It is very much looking forward to that. For those who don't know, excuse me, I was invited by one of the organisers, Steve Mira, to attend with the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine. Now, I'll be taking lots of magazines with me with Gary Cook on the front. Not sure how that's going to pan out, but Metal Detecting magazine, it's a Chariot of the Gods event, but we're there to spread the word, to show people that we exist, and hopefully bring more of that genre within to the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine. Hello, Adrian.
Please say you can hear me.
I can hear you.
But I'm very quiet.
We can hear
You're not as quiet as you were before.
Just shout a bit, you'll be fine.
Am I right now?
Yeah, just yell.
Shout louder.
I think I've got gremlins.
Okay.
You have gremlins every week.
I know I do. This is the problem when you have a household computer. Actually, I should have logged in with my laptop. That would have been better. But never mind. I'm here now. So, good evening, Hugh. Sorry about this.
Good evening. I've got a question for you guys, actually. Talking about like the combination of like Ancient Aliens and metal detecting. Has anyone you know found anything very odd, very obscure that's made of metal?
Yes, a friend of mine, Mark Ollie, you might have heard of him. He actually made a TV documentary and wrote a book about the no, it's not Abergavenny. Where was it? It wasn't Abersock. It was somewhere that it was a Welsh UFO crash, allegedly, and he's allegedly got metallic objects. There's also a guy over in America who was supposed to be coming on a show. Remember, very, very early in our infancy, Adrian, that Luke communicated with, who claimed to have some unidentified material that he'd actually metal detected in the area where an alleged UFO crash took place way back when. So, yes.
I've spoken to numerous people and myself found metal objects. And Dave, someone at Rodney Cook last year, handed us a bit of metal, and it was square shaped, but it was ridiculously heavy, heavier than lead.
Yes, you're right. Actually, I remember now.
And it was you know how much lead roughly weighs, but as soon as he put it in our hands, it was like, whoa, and we couldn't work it out. Could you remember, Dave?
Yes, I
Yeah.
remember.
So why do you ask you?
Aberris with the UFO thing with Mark Ollie.
I'm just interested because you guys are like specialists in the metal detecting world, and
Oh no, he is. I'm not.
Okay,
I blag it.
and I'm just fascinated, because I'm sure a lot of stuff gets found that people like me who are researching don't hear about. So I'm just intrigued by any anomalous. I mean, I'm interested because some of our accounts in our Giants book talk about skeletons with armor on. We're talking like 14, 15-foot skeletons found in numerous places across Britain. They have armor, they have swords and axes and shields and things like this. So I wonder if have you come across anything like that, oversized artifacts that are made of metal?
Yes and no. A lad I work with is from Romania, and I was telling him you were on the show tonight, and he got all excited and started waving his hands because over in Romania there was allegedly a grave site of up to 80 skeletons, which he knows all about because it was up in the hills near where he was from. I'm waving my hand up there, don't know why. And apparently some people with metal detectors actually were a part of that in its infancy, from what I've read thereafter. So other than that, it's a difficult scenario. I mean, if these things do happen, there's lots of evidence that claim things are covered up as well, Hugh. So do we actually know? I don't know.
Maybe it's time to ask people who watch the show who has found something, like a thimble the size of a foot or something, or do you know what I mean? I think quite a few times I've found bits of metal which have been extremely heavy, and they're not iron or lead. They're weird. They're normally sealed, solid. But yeah, the guy we saw at Rodney Cook, Dave, I remember that. He didn't know what it was, did he? And he didn't want to drill into it. And I think he was getting it. What's that scan they do? That special thing they do. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, I've not seen. Maybe Julian.
I forgot all about that, to be honest, Adrian.
Yeah, it's only because I've found a few things over the years that are similar. They're not the right weight. Your brain says it's almost like a thimble in size, but it weighs like it's full, but it's hollow. If that makes sense. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. All right.
Oh, someone's put that in there.
Tidy Treasure has a video of some weird, shiny, lumpy experimented on cause. Yeah, it was Rob Random. I started reading that and realised it was Rob Random and I had to stop there.
Yeah, you don't know what it is.
So what led you to the interest of megaliths and such like? I mean, we all have an interest in history in the UK. There are the megaliths like Stonehenge, readily able to you to visit in the UK. What led to your interest in making a career, let's say, out of the subject?
Well, the megaliths, yeah. I mean, it was kind of a weird way in. I was kind of quite into like paranormal stuff when I was kind of young. Kind of the kind of supernatural. As a subscriber at a very early age to the Unexplained magazine. You probably know about that.
I used to get it.
Yeah, and I've
got some here with my articles in.
Yeah, oh right, I've got all the binders and everything still stashed away, and then I kind of through that and through a couple of books that my brother got me. Actually, I kind of started noticing crop circles appearing in the early days in the early 90s and stuff, and that kind of drew me into like this area, like Wiltshire. So I was back in Cambridge at the time, and we started visiting all these crop circles and getting blown away by them and this, that, and the other. And then, we started visiting Stonehenge. And my mum always took me when I was a kid, like young, to all these megalithic sites across the world, in fact. And she was quite a kind of avid traveler, still is actually. And so, yeah, that kind of got me interested really. And but it's through the kind of more esoteric I was into UFOs and that when I was really young as well, kind of so all that kind of stuff got me into it. And then I wasn't gonna, it was just an interest for ages. And then I was studying other things, went to university studying like film and stuff like that. And but eventually I kind of got into this, and it kind of took over. I became like what's called a megalithomaniac. It just completely took over my life. And we started doing the conference back in 2005, 2006 in Glastonbury. Before that, I was organising events, like festivals, and this, that, and the other. Yeah, and it just kind of just took over. And like, eventually, I realised I'm just going to do this. Try and quit everything else, just do this because it's kind of what I love. And yeah, it's kind of now it's just like a 24/7 kind of thing with tours, conferences, writing books, YouTube channel, everything else, speaking at these kind of events. Yeah, and I'm still loving it. So yeah, it's all good.
And you get around as well a bit, Hugh. I know you've been to Egypt in the past year, and obviously
Yeah.
COVID stopped you traveling beforehand, but you get all over the place visiting different locations throughout the world related to megalithic sites.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I've been an avid traveler since like I first did my big first trip in 2003 to Mexico and Hawaii, of all places, and spent several months there and kind of got the bug. That was it. I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to kind of see the world now. And so yeah, my mum influenced me as well. Obviously, she took me to loads of places. Yeah, and since then, I'm an obsessive kind of megalithic explorer. Just go to places. I mean, I go to places no one's even heard of, just to go and look at one stone. It will take me like a week to get there. It's just like just you get obsessed by it. And yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm quite interested in sites no one's heard of. I'm I kind of hear about something. Just mentioned once somewhere that no one's even published anything about, and try and go and find it. I kind of think that kind of thing fascinates me. I've got into some quite difficult kind of almost deadly situations once or twice as well, which makes it all the more interesting.
We like deadly. We don't like deadly, but we like deadly.
Do you travel on your own, Hugh, or do you normally have someone with you?
Yeah, well, JJ, my partner, she comes with me most times nowadays since we got together a few years ago. But sometimes if she's back in America, I kind of go and do things. Yeah, I'm quite a kind of good solo traveler. I can happily go anywhere on my own for however long. But yeah, but JJ, luckily she's totally into this stuff, so we kind of like, we've both got a passion for it. So we don't, we go to these beautiful Mediterranean places. We never see a beach. We always go and hunt the megaliths and the kind of giants' graves and things like that. So yeah, it's not super exotic, but we do get some cool places.
What got you to write a book on the one here, the Giants?
The Giants.
You've written other books as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done a few books. Yeah, I've done one on Earth grids, which is like the distribution of sites around the planet and all the geometry. That came out back out in 2008. The one on stone circles. I've got a couple of collaborations. One called Megalith Studies in Stone. And also our previous book on giants that me and Jim did was called Giants on Record, looking at the American kind of story over there, which is insane. It's like we've got thousands of accounts of giants, like Native American giants going back thousands of years, which is an unbelievable story and one of the biggest cover-ups in history. And it's insane when you start looking into it. But then we kind of, after that kind of settled down, we put our attention into the British giants, because I was just fascinated that we kept finding accounts. And this is really through the megalithic stuff, because even in America you get megalithic sites up in the northeast, and it was through researching those, that's why I met Jim as well, that we kind of realized we kept finding all these accounts of giants associated with these sites, and it kind of kind of made us really think about that. And the same thing here, you start realizing all the kind of the megalithic sites here have got giant associations with them as well. So we kind of, even Stonehenge was called the Giant's Dance before it was called Stonehenge. So we realized we kept finding all these skeletal discoveries, these remains in the archaeological, historical, and oral traditions records everywhere in Britain, as well as in America, obviously. And realized we've got to do a book about this, because and it's become this really interesting kind of story, which you don't expect. You think you're just going to present a load of these accounts of giants and a few legends, but actually there's a really cool story which goes back to the last ice age, and it connects with the biblical giants. It connects with North America. It connects with these lost lands out in the Atlantic and things like this. And so, yeah, there's quite a story there when you start digging into the records.
Have you actually seen any of the bones in
Yeah,
person?
yeah, I've seen a few. Yeah, in America, I've seen a couple. Two, is one in a private collection, which I'm going to publish a video on. Actually, a few years ago, I saw this. He claims to have giant remains of probably a 12-foot giant. We saw some of the bones of that and skull fragments. We've got there's two or three on display in Britain. We've got one up in Thirsk Museum, a 7-footer. We've got a 7.5-footer in Berg Castle in Norfolk. There's a few other things here and there, a few bones and possible skulls and teeth, but not many. There's just a handful here and there.
That's fascinating. I didn't realise there were so many physical things that you could actually have access to. I don't know whether in private situations, but offering validity really.
Yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous amount of. I mean, I think people think we're a bit mad, because we're writing about giants. It kind of seems like, if someone who hasn't kind of seen what we've seen and researched what we've researched, you think we were completely mental. We're not like, get your shit together, Hugh, kind of thing. But no, actually, there's a proper kind of historical timeline to all this. And if you dig into the records, you dig into these journals, you dig into like archaeological papers, you look in Welsh text that needs to be translated and things like this. And doctors and surgeons making these discoveries like 500 years ago, they're all measuring. They can all measure things. It's not like they're stupid. They can't wrap a tape around a skull or stretch it the length of a skeleton. And so they reported all these all very matter of fact way in quite renowned journals, archaeological papers, and things like this, and also very well known people talked and wrote about this. Like in Britain, we have these scholars from the 1500s, like William Camden, John Leland, and others, all involved in this. And so these were people who were kind of writing books like, Britannica and things like that. And there's a couple of others. Hang on a sec, I've completely forgotten the name of the one I wanted to mention. What's his name? So Thomas Eliot as well, who was like a scholar, diplomat. He wrote one of the first Latin dictionaries and things like this. And they were talking about a 14-foot, 10-inch skeleton found near Stonehenge. And all a matter of fact way, hundreds of people witnessed it. We know where it was found. No one knows what's happened to it. Interestingly, there was a metal artifact, which would be really interesting if it ever got found again, because there was descriptions of this giant metal disc made of tin and lead that they all talked about, but they couldn't decode the inscriptions on it. There was like this unusual foreign, and so that is really odd, and it was like big. It was like a few feet wide, kind of like a tabletop. They also found this book in this particular burial as well, which had all this same kind of writing on it, which they couldn't understand. So whether that was some kind of Canaanite or biblical text or something, or whether it was something completely alien, we just don't know. But you have these kind of accounts written by these very well-known, respected, knighted people in some cases, and well-known scholars. And I mean, Thomas Eliot was a member of Parliament for Cambridge and things like this. And so when you start seeing who's involved and who's writing and documenting these accounts, you take it seriously. And because in America, we've got hundreds of accounts of well-respected doctors, scholars, people from the Smithsonian, universities, renowned anthropologists, surgeons, and other such things, all commenting on us, even providing illustrations and photos and clear measurements. And yet people say we're making it up, and it's like, well, no, it's there. It's actually in the Smithsonian's own books from the late 1800s. They talk about 7 to 8 foot tall skeletons being found. And so, so things like that kind of get a bit frustrating after a while when we get the skeptics kind of on our case, or people making jokes about it, because we find it's actually like part of our historical timeline. It's part of human history. And it's been denied to us. And so we're just, doing our thing and just bringing it back into the public domain.
There's a few people asking in the chat, what would you say would determine what height would you say would determine a giant?
Well, we just do it anything over 7 foot, really. And that can go up to, I mean, we've got some crazy accounts. We can't verify some of these, but we've got accounts going up to 21 feet, 18 feet in America. But the one in near Stonehenge was 14 foot 10, and it was all very matter of fact. Many people witnessed it. So it's like, what do you make of that? That's like, 2 or 3 times the size of a short person. It's like, it's pretty epic, really.
It's about 14 times the size of one of our friends, Scotty B, as well.
Yes, if he's not in bed. He's got school tomorrow, probably. Hugh, do you know from the bone structure of them whether these were stocky people or, like we always remember in the Guinness Book of Records, the world's tallest man? I think someone in the chat.
Richard Wadlow.
Yeah, he was very tall, thin, had trouble walking and stuff. Are the bone structures of these large skeletons sort of stocky people, or are they?
Yeah, I mean, America is the best resource for like pure descriptions, because often it was because these were found by Smithsonian archaeologists and anthropologists and stuff, and they talk about. I mean, in the Native American traditions, they're just very strong, very normal proportions. There's nothing odd about them. They're not basketball player types. They have not got what you mentioned, like Robert Wadlow with acromegaly or gigantism, which is a condition with the pituitary gland. Now we have lots of cases of that, but 95% of the stuff we've come across doesn't seem to indicate that. Just a few do, 1 or 2, but not many really. And so no, most of the descriptions are like very powerful, very strong. And this kind of fits in with these kind of traditions and legends that talk about these particular types of people in Britain and in America, where they were kind of almost like a warrior caste. In America, some of the presidents met some of the surviving giants of some of these tribes, like the Osage Indians, for instance, and they always described them as robust, well-built, almost like a kind of royal elite. They were described even by these presidents. We have a chapter in our previous book about that, called The Presidents of the Giants, where they kind of, actually met them and talked to them, things like that. So they were around right up until relatively recently, to the early 1900s. Here, on the other hand, we have to go quite far back to kind of start digging into the records. It seems like there's not much of it left, but it's just one of these things that is odd, because is it just an anomaly, the occasional anomaly, or is it actually something else? Is it like an actual kind of genetic kind of group who eventually died out? Because you start looking around the world and you find that even now they're finding a group, for instance, called the Denisovans, and these are found in Siberia, but they've got DNA markers in Europe, mostly in North America, in fact, and they were robust and pronounced to be very, very tall, probably 7-footers at least. And this is part of our human timeline. Actually, they actually bred of modern humans and Neanderthals about 150,000 years ago, and actually ended up some of us have Denisovan DNA. And so they've always, this kind of tallness isn't such a kind of rarity as people think. It's just in the modern era, we don't really have it so much, so we don't accept it because we can't see it with our own eyes.
I suppose a lot of them died off because to have a body that big, the amount of calories you've got to eat every day to keep alive must be phenomenal.
It's probably why a lot of them are cannibals. Yeah.
Were they? Were they?
It's true. I mean, this is one of the weird stories that comes with them, but there's also physical evidence of that as well. We found there's accounts of Scotland, some more tribal communities in different parts of the world have this as well. North America for sure. We know about lots and lots of cannibalism that took place. So there's another thing there's one other aspect. I mean, you look at the kind of traditional stories in Britain. They kind of recount all this kind of stuff, like Jack the Giant Killer and so forth.
When we met at the conference back in September, I think it was last year. Obviously, I said you got my mind working. Excuse me, and it took me back to an article I wrote way back when, which I've recently republished on the website about the Child of Hail in Speak. near Liverpool, and John Middleton, his name was, late 1500s, and he was allegedly 9 foot 3. And there's so much written evidence, documented evidence, paintings, all the he was taken down as the fighting champion for the king in London. There's so much evidence that says this was actual a 9 foot 3 person. Then that's just one account that's pretty obvious as it's all the information's out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we know about that account. I don't think we ended up putting that in the book because we kind of focused on the ancient discoveries that were found in association mainly with ancient sites. But I just want to point out to people who might have got the wrong end of the stick here is that what we find with the kind of traditional stories of these giants that are passed down through like indigenous communities and through the druidic traditions of Britain, the ancient giants were kind of high level kind of shamans and sorcerers, and they were kind of masters of astronomy and geometry and metrology, like ancient measurement systems, and these were the ones involved in building the megalithic ancient sites, as the traditions always point to. And so people, there is like that side of it, and it's almost like they weren't necessarily much taller, but they were highly advanced, and they kind of somehow maintained this genetic height kind of thing going on that passed down through generations. And I think this is certainly the case in North America, where it's known quite clearly, where when you look back into the histories of some of the Native Americans, you find that elite groups of priest chiefs kind of thing would only breed with the elite groups of like priest chiefly areas of other tribes and their offspring and things like that. So all the tall genes would maintain themselves within this kind of elite status, and that was probably what was going on here as well until like 1,000 years ago or so. And so we have this kind of thing as well going on, which would kind of affect the whole gene pool.
It's interesting because you could suggest more or less that's an entirely different species of human, a different sort of strain entirely. So they're staying together. It's they've got the mind, the power, the ability that the normal human totally hasn't.
Yeah. I mean, I think they were. I mean, I think they were humans. I think that's it. But I think there's like this kind of. I mean, you start reading, you start looking into these oral traditions. You start looking into the age old legends of Ireland and Wales. They're talking about like these god kings almost, where they're this elite, and they often arrive from sunken lands or obscure different places, and this is all very ingrained in people's consciousness up until around the 15 or 1600s, when everything started changing. The Christianity kind of thing started taking over the whole education system and all this kind of stuff, and reading and writing became more of a thing. And but before that, it was always stories and traditions, and folklore was passed down very accurately from generation to generation. So you get this very clear kind of lineage of information being passed down as well, not just like made up fairy stories. These are like genuine knowledge being passed down word for word and ingrained into like memory techniques of these different people. And the Druids were famous for this. This is why there's not much written information to go on. You just got the occasional things that people have written down, like the Irish annals and some of the Welsh texts that we've got access to and managed to translate some of them. And they just talk about like even the founding of Britain was linked with giant human beings, and often there's like a semi-divine people like Albina, who would come over from a different country like Greece, and she had giant genes herself, and she bred with these semi-divine demonic beings called the incubi, and gave birth to this race of giants who became known as Gog Magog, who lived down in Cornwall, who then kind of were then taken over by Brutus of Troy, who came over again and kind of captured Gog Magog, killed off all the other giants, then used Gog Magog to be the protector of London. And still they have effigies of Gog Magog now, Gog and Magog they've turned it into, in the Guildhall in London. And they're paraded around London every year at the Lord Mayor's show. And so this tradition is still there today. So people are still kind of have this traditional story of giants being, ingrained even in the modern day in our society, but it's just not kind of part of social media or the news or the general media.
How many skeletons have been dug up in the UK that there's evidence of at the moment? Do you know of?
Well, in our book, we think we put everyone we found, which we thought was possibly a real story and not a kind of made up newspaper headline. We have about 250 accounts in the British Isles. This is including Ireland. In North America, we also, in our last book about North America, we put 250 accounts in, but we had 1,000. Since then, there's now 1,500 that we've got from North America, and that's just what's been reported. And so what hasn't been reported is what hasn't even been dug up is a whole other story.
Were they predominantly in one area of the country more than the other, or just scattered?
God, no, they're literally everywhere. I don't think there's one county that isn't included in the book, actually. I mean, the book's like a gazetteer. We kind of do maps of each area and go into it in quite fine detail. But it's quite, it's a bit shocking if you actually read through some of these accounts, look through like maybe one chapter of where you're from in England. It's just like, what the hell? It's like, how didn't I know about an 8.5 foot warrior skeleton being dug up, 6 houses down the road from me and things like this, and but I want to know, I'm sure people still have the bones in their basement, in their lockup, in their private collections in England. I'm sure there's evidence to be seen, and we just maybe not going to see it in our lifetime. So if anyone's listening and you've got a giant skeleton or skull, let me know, please.
It's funny you should say this, because there's a couple of times in the last few years when I've been out detecting, I've come across a bone and it's too big for a human bone, so we've always said it's an animal and chucked it in a hedge. It could have been an animal, but I'm thinking now, it's like, is it your fibia? No, what's the one below the knee?
I'm not sure.
That's your foot, mate.
No,
Yeah.
in
Femur.
looking at, well, it's normally about that long,
Right.
and I'm sure we found one that, and I thought, well, it's not a cow, it's not
So
a lamb.
you've had giant evidence and you threw it in a hedge. Is that right?
Well, I'm thinking that possibly. Well, no, there's a couple of times I've come across.
Can you remember what hedge?
It was no, but I'm just trying to think now. Oh, actually, I might do. But you're right. There are the odd bones you look at. You think, yeah, that's a cow or a horse. But yeah, there's a few bones I've found, because we do when we detect. Well, there's bodies everywhere, isn't there? And
yeah.
not that we go looking for bodies, but
Tibia and fibia are below the knee. Femur is your thigh bone.
So it was tibia and fibia. Yeah. I was right, wasn't I? Yeah. So yeah, it's got me thinking now. It's got me thinking. I think, yeah.
And that's why I like to bring guests onto the show like you, because they do get people thinking, because we don't think enough. So when people do start thinking, then that's mischief managed.
Yeah. No, it's made me think now, because there's quite, sometimes you come, especially on the beach. So I've found probably more bones on the beach than anything, but I think that's where animals have drowned. But you don't know, do you?
That's interesting.
It's one of those things which do you know why people, do you think, Hugh, have covered it up? Is it because they were cannibals, or they were untoward, or?
I mean, there's quite. I mean, in America, there's we did a whole chapter called the Smithsonian Files, and we kind of looked into this quite thoroughly and went through all the data, all their books and their agendas, and we realized it's like a series of agendas in America. This is combining, which then created a cover up, and so it wasn't necessarily like a load of guys sitting around a darkened room smoking cigars planning the conspiracy or anything like that, but we have like the agendas of Manifest Destiny agenda, which was taking place. This was combined with evolution, which was being championed by the Smithsonian at the time, and also like Christian beliefs, and also racist kind of eugenics kind of stuff involved in North America from an early phase. And so we have this kind of series of, because Manifest Destiny, for instance, is like this whole thing of the white man coming over, being the superior race, removing the Native Americans, which they called savages in a racist manner, push them onto reservations and take over their land. And so when they were trying to convince everyone that they were of a lesser type of human than the white man, then it became, a kind of racist agenda. Really, that's kind of fundamentally what it was. But when they did they start taking over their lands, they kept digging into the mounds and the megaliths and other such things in North America, and they kept finding like these giant skeletons of robust warrior caste individuals, as well as advanced technology like weapons and kind of armor, beautifully laid out, geometric, astronomically aligned earthworks, which were stunningly advanced, and also a very advanced level of things like astronomy and geometry, and different histories, which was maintained orally through the different cultures. And so that didn't fit with their agendas. So they hid that because they wanted to be the superior white people coming over and taking over their land. And so we pretty much uncovered this, and we did a TV show for History Channel called Search for the Lost Giants, and we started getting into that. And then before we know it, they refused to renew the seasons because we started criticizing the Smithsonian quite fundamentally. I mean, to a point where we were joking about them constantly, and that didn't go down too well with the authorities apparently. So that got cancelled.
That sounds like me and you, that Adrian, really, doesn't
it? Yeah, definitely. Although we've been good tonight. Your book, though, The Giants of Stonehenge, it's quite a big book, isn't it? It's over 400 odd pages.
Yes, 404 pages. But we kind of there is a really interesting. I mean, if you're into megaliths or ancient sites in Britain, this is a really useful book, because a lot of these accounts, a lot of these legends are all associated with them. And we find these really obscure stories associated with sites that you might not have even heard of in your local area, for instance. We also got a load of books, some Welsh stuff, some Irish stuff that some of it hadn't been translated before, and we kind of got it looked at. And what we found is that the most interesting aspect to us is the fact that all these stories encode high level information about astronomy, ley lines, the laying out sites, surveying techniques, and kind of magic like sorcery. I mean, there's even a chapter we do called Sowers of Thunder, which really surprised us. I mean, there was a previous book in 1978 called Sowers of Thunder by Anthony Roberts, who was this legendary figure who wrote this book on the kind of mythology of giants, some of the discoveries back then. And we kind of took that on board and continued it. And we got about 30 accounts of people who tried to dig up giants' graves in the relatively modern era, the last couple of hundred years. And when they've done it, suddenly, there you go, great storms and lightning and thunder would happen as soon as they started digging, and it kind of freaked them out and they would run off. It's almost like these sites had a kind of spell or some kind of weather technology built into it, that in a kind of magical way when they were built. And that, I mean, really surprised us how many accounts we got of that. So it's almost like they were like the whole Tutankhamun kind of curse and things like this. And there is a tradition in the world of giantology, we call it, where there is a thing called the curse of the giant hunters, where people who've tried to interfere or dig up giants' bones and graves or remove them from their location, this kind of thing would happen to them. So we suggest this fits in with the other legends and stories, that these were very advanced shamanic people. They weren't just kind of run-of-the-mill giants. They were like kind of serious, and they would protect their land, protect their graves with whatever it took.
Have you, perchance, got Frank to hand?
I can go and get Frank if you like.
Do you want to meet Frank, Adrian?
Again? Yeah.
Where is he? Oh, he's not. He's in the other room.
He doesn't know about Frank.
Doesn't know about Frank. Let me get Frank quickly. There you go. Talk amongst yourself.
Frank, you'll see who Frank is. Yes, Frank.
Is it a...
No.
Ben
no.
Oh, Frank.
It's Frank.
Oh. Isn't that the drugs keyword for kids.
No.
It's like a
Well,
safety
might
thing.
be.
Yeah, it is.
Let's be frank about this. I've met Frank. Frank's ace.
This is quite interesting.
You don't know what to expect now, do you?
Well, I'm thinking of like a little ventriloqual skull.
It's not little. That's Frank.
There you go. That is quite a good example of a giant skull, even though it's got glitter inside it, lights. But this is our kind of giant skull that we've got. You know, it's not a real one, as you can tell, but it's quite a good rendition of someone who's probably 9 feet tall. You compare that kind of next to my head. But there's some skulls that we've got reported and measured by kind of scientists that are 36-inch circumference.
Wow.
You imagine the size of that. And so we've got one that's a 40-inch circumference one as well, which is like insane. And so we're talking like 12-foot kind of size there. And these are reported by kind of, you know, like I say, this is like academics, you know. So, and I think, yeah.
How did you come across Frank? Was Frank made for you, or did you buy it? Oh, yeah, there's that. It's a big skull. Or have you actually got it to any schematics that you've found from what people have actually reported in the past?
No, not at all. When we published the book, it was around Halloween time. Me and Jim went out. I think the first time we went out to get some stuff from the shops, and we saw Frank there, and we couldn't believe our luck. And we bought him for like £5.50 or something like that. And you know, and it just happened to be the perfect kind of giant skull prop that we required at the time.
Is that why it's got glitter in it?
That's why, yeah, it's got yeah, flashing lights.
I just thought you'd spilt some on Saturday night. We're getting ready. Yeah, no, that's quite bizarre. That is quite a shocking size, isn't it? When you think about
that
it.
Is, I mean, yeah, but I mean, that isn't. That's kind of, if you measure that, that's not going to be anything near like 36 inches. I mean, you know, we're talking about like, it's like kind of my waist pretty much is like the size of the skull, which is not that small, my waist. And so it's like, you know, I mean, seriously, I mean, this we've got accession cards, yeah, which are these cards you get. We've managed to get some copies of them that were when things were delivered to the Smithsonian or collected by the Smithsonian, that talks about this specific size skulls, and some of them are 34, 36 inches. We're just like, what the hell? And so we've got photos in our previous book of all this. Yes, so there's a lot of evidence, but not much left to look at, because you've got the Smithsonian disappearing everything, and then you've got NAGPRA, the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, which came out in 1990, and this was a kind of collusion between the federal government and Native American kind of elders and tribal groups to remove all the remains or burial remains of any kind of Native American things, including giant skeletons, to be reburied in a sacred way, which is a good thing in some respects, but it takes away all the evidence that was remaining. And so it's actually illegal to even have anything like that in North America. You can actually go to prison for years if you find anything and don't hand it over straight away.
I like the little stories that are popping up. Derek Gibbon, I know it's not ancient, but he says there's a guy whose portrait hangs in Truro Museum called the Cornish Giant. His name is Payne. He believes he's over 7.5 feet tall, and it dates back to the mid-1600s.
Yes, interesting. Yeah. There's also someone here mentions, is the US hiding the giants now? Is everyone in the US hiding the giants? Probably are, because otherwise you're going to get arrested. Yeah, I would imagine so.
It also got, as I said before, and I'm sure other people's minds will be triggered with historical references to what they've heard about giants and stuff. I mean, myself again, Norton Priory and Runcorn, there was evidence there was giants skeletons dug up there way back when. And Dinas Bran, Llangollen, the castle in of Llangollen, claimed to be the home of a giant for many. Can't remember his name, but it was called Dinas Bran up there anyway. So, and I'm sure lots of people will have so many different varieties of stories dating back from the mid-1600s to a long time ago. I'm sure there's lots that you just don't realise.
Oh, it's just so much. It's just like people don't understand. I mean, everywhere in Britain, it's like there's, like in Wales especially, you get this, and Cornwall. There's everything, like street names, names of kind of pubs, um, even the family names of people, even fields are called things in Wales that are to do with these giants. It was just part of the consciousness. It was like everyone was just, it was just a thing. There was always giants in the landscape, like in the stories and things like this. And why? I mean, why have that? Why is that there everywhere? That's what baffles us. It's just it's so strong when you start looking into it. And then you have like some of the early explorers, like Magellan, even Sir Francis Drake and others who witnessed live giants in North America and down in Patagonia, down at the southern tip of South America. Even Captain Frederick Cook photographed himself with 7.5 foot tall Onas giants, which were like part of, they were down in Patagonia, but also going into the islands around the northern tip of Antarctica. Um, and so tribes of giants were still alive in 1901 and they were photographed, things like this. So the reality of it is there. It's just a case of like trying to like piece together all these stories we've got, and because it's not really been documented really. I mean, no one's really kind of interested in it, but when you start combining that with the fact that they're often found right next to or in megalithic sites, you realize there's a connection, and they may have actually contributed to the design and construction of them. Anyway, I'm waffling on a bit now, so if there's any other
No,
questions.
that's why I asked. Are they quite stocky and well built based on the bone structure? Because if they were all thin, lanky, and like feeble, they wouldn't have been able to lift a lump of wood, let alone a stone. But if they were proportional, like had a muscular physique, like Dave, for example,
Or
that
some
if you
fat.
no, that's all muscle, Dave, isn't it? It's all muscle. But yeah, I just wonder. And your book, going back to the book again, are you covering all areas of the United Kingdom? So would you
Yeah,
have like Cornwall, Devon, Essex, Wales,
yeah. No, I'll just
Newcastle?
quickly. Yeah, we have like all the different.
Quite a big old book, isn't
We
it?
have
Look at that,
maps.
Dave.
We've got maps in here, for instance. We do full map. Like there's like Wales, for instance, just so you can, I don't know if you can see that there. Wales and Anglesey. Um, and then we do like at the end of each chapter, we sort of mark skulls where the discoveries have been made, but also the fact that they're close to megalithic ancient sites. And then at
Did
the
you
end of
see
each,
the amount that are on Anglesey then? And I was only there
oh,
last
Anglesey
week.
is insane. Anglesey is one of the richest areas, actually. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, at the top there.
Hold
Anglesey.
on. I know what I can do.
Go on,
We
yeah,
can
make
do
it
that,
big.
can't we?
Yes, Anglesey is one of the richest areas.
Bring Kelly do. I was there last week, even though I never pronounce it correctly.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, and so Wales as well, all over. I mean, and we've got maps of every single area around the country, kind of covering all this. And then what we do as well, if people are interested, they can actually, like, we do a gazetteer. So we have a big list at the end of each chapter. So people can actually like locate if they want to go and check things out. Go to each of the sites. You can actually go and visit half these sites. It's a bit of a guidebook as well. But then you start, what's interesting we found is that you start finding all these myths and legends in your local area and sites you didn't realize stuff had been found at. Yes, it's quite a kind of fun story when you start kind of digging into all the old kind of connections and legends and things like that.
That's a lovely book. The illustrations and stuff. Did it
It
take
is,
long
isn't
to
it?
put together?
Yeah, it took ages. Yeah.
I was going to say it's not like your normal sort of 11-point courier with like
No,
the
no,
odd
we
like
put a lot of
podium.
effort. Yeah, we put a lot of effort into our publications. We go for it, and we work with a couple of really cool artists as well, who do our maps and kind of some of the illustrations. I'll just show you a couple more. I mean, one of the most interesting places in Wales is a place called Cadi Idris, which is up north, Snowdonia kind of area. I don't know if people know about that, but this is the domain of the giant Idris, or also known as the holy astronomer of Britain. Who Idris is actually another name for Enoch, which is this is why there's these strange biblical connections in these areas. Sorry, one sec, can't find it now.
That's all right. We've got a few people in the chat saying they want to get hold of a copy. So First question is 400 pages hardback, which is a nice book. But where can they get it, and how much is it?
Yeah, we've got a softback, just a normal softback version as well. I'm trying to find this picture. And here it is actually. Let me just show you this. But yeah, it's all on Amazon and stuff. The ebook's got everything in color. This is the print version. This is a
That's
picture
a
of
lovely picture.
He was called the giant astronomer of Wales, and they actually found some 7-foot skeletons at the base of the mountain where this giant king was said to have resided from. And so you're actually finding the legends match the skeletal discoveries in many places. So wherever there's a legend, there's probably a burial in that area. But yeah, you can get this. Basically, it's the best place to get it is Amazon. But you can find it in a few bookshops. We've got it in a few bookshops as well. It's going to be published in America soon. We've got a publisher. Actually, David Hatcher Childress is going to be our publisher in America. And if people like, please grab a copy. We'd really appreciate it. If they're coming up to Blackpool in a couple of weeks, then we're going to have it there as well, obviously. And we'll have signed copies up there as well. But yeah, we did a nice sort of lush hardback edition, which is like 20 quid, I think, or £21, and a softback, which I think is £15 or £15.99, something like that. And the ebook's like 7 or 8 quid.
Which, considering the 404 pages and the quality of the book, is nothing really.
No, it's not
cheaper.
Really.
Cheaper than
well,
lots of petrol.
I'll tell you something now, right? Last week I had to go to the library, not to get a book out, just to do some paperwork and stuff. And how much do you reckon a copy of the Times on Sunday is? I nearly fell off my chair.
I don't know. What is it now?
Go on, have a guess.
10 quid?
Well,
£1.59.
£8.
Well, a copy of the Times, which I thought newspapers were like 20p, 50p, 80p, it was £2.80, I think, or that might have been the Telegraph. But that's a lot of money, isn't it? Thinking.
I know magazines that are £7.95. Stuff like that.
But paper prices have gone up 50% since last year, and they're going up again because of what's going on. But when I thought, hang on, there's a paper boy going around with like 20 copies of that in his backpack on a Sunday morning, like he's going around with probably nearly 100 quid's worth of stuff, let alone all that. So I'll go out and mug them. No, I won't. But I just thought, it's quite a lot of money now. Print is dear. Print is dear. Very dear. But
we're in the process of in fact, there's one for us, Adrian, in a moment. We're in the process of planning for our next 2 magazines for the Rodney Cook Memorial and Detectable, the printed versions. So, we've noticed the massive increase in price. As you're in near Stonehenge.
Look at that, Dave.
That's our top 10 giants, if anyone's interested.
Would you look at that?
And a little glimpse of it. So I put that together. It's kind of my little graphic design kind of little game. And you got kind of a few goodies on there. From 7 foot to 21 foot, pretty epic proportions.
Oddly, May Show in Orkney reopened to the public again this week.
It did, yeah. We're heading up there actually in August. We run tours up there every August, so we thank God it's open.
Isn't it? Absolutely, man.
But you got a few goodies in there. You got some famous ones like Maze. So in Maze Howe, for instance, in Orkney, people don't realise that actually, let me just check. So in 1861, a 10-foot skeleton was said to have been found in it, and 2 mummified bodies were found in. No one knows about this. No one has a clue, and it's like, so we just like couldn't believe it when we. Why isn't this talked about more? It's almost like these amazing discoveries just aren't talked about, and or people just think they're all hoaxes. But this is like a well-known scholar who excavated the site wrote about this. Even Glastonbury Abbey, back in the late 1100s, a 9-foot skeleton was found, like 16 feet below the surface, which they claimed at the time was the burial of King Arthur. But things like this, St Michael's Mount as well, for instance, in the early 1800s, we think it might be older. A discovery was made inside the crypt found like shoved in there in solid, almost in solid rock, in this kind of it been caved in of an 8-foot skeleton. And on St Michael's Mount, you have a legend of the giant cormorant who used to battle with Jack the Giant Killer, and even the National Trust books did this whole report on this skeleton, and it was reburied in the graveyard on St Michael's Mount. And so you've got these really famous sites where they've been found, and yet people deny they ever existed, even though they're documented.
I'll be honest, Hugh. Tonight, when I knew you were coming on the show, it's the sort of thing that sort of interested me. But now I'm thinking more about it. We believe in people believe in UFOs, people believe in the Bible, people believe in a lot of things that they've never seen or heard of. But when evidence has been dug up and there's folklore and stories, and why not the human body? We see, like, I don't know, on TikTok and YouTube, we'll see someone in India or something who's like 3 inches tall. We'll see someone who's born without any arms and legs, people born with 2 heads. So why on earth can't there be people who are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 foot? It's one of those things which, like you say, you start thinking now, and the human body's a funny thing, and it only takes, I don't know, 1 in a million well, you think of the amount of humans who've been on this in the UK alone since the 13th century going back. You only need like 20 or 30, don't you, out of all that sort of... And it's quite interesting. I might get the book, and my wife would love this, do a tour of all the places they've found. I might save that for our wedding anniversary next year, actually, because I think we can get a little Toyota Hiace camper van with a chemical toilet, and we can drive round for a couple of months. That'd be quite nice. I'd love that, but...
the book is a bit like a guidebook, to be honest with you. A lot of people have said that. It wasn't our intention, but that's kind of how it's turned out, because we wanted to, in our previous book, we kind of just blended different themes together. But in this one, we realized it's actually quite a fun thing. I take it with me as well when I go out, in case I go past a site or something you can check out. And I've been to quite a few sites I didn't even know about before we researched it and kind of put it in the book. So yes, it's quite a fun kind of exploration if you're into that kind of stuff. There's a lot of esoteric information in there, a lot of kind of encoded, kind of high level ancient wisdom as well, which a lot of these giants are associated with. They're not just these bumbling oafs who want to eat you. There's even Bigfoot kind of stories as well. We came across. There's 2 really interesting ones in Wales, South Wales, and one up in Ben Macdui mountain in Scotland, where they're called the Grey Man, who's said to be. And so we've even got Bigfoot kind of stuff going on. I don't know if you're interested in that, but that's something I've got a personal weird fascination with that. Since going to America a few times, I'm kind of like, what the hell are these stories, man? And but you get that here, which is mind blowing. I've been reading this book called Solomon Island Mysteries, and they talk about races of giants who are still alive today, inhabiting the central part of the island. Some of them are Bigfoot type creatures, others are humans. And so it just gets weirder and weirder when you start looking into into all these different places.
Well, I'm just going to depart from this conversation for a moment, because we are in the need of doing this week's prize draw, which was running for the composite cleaning pencil for Graham Dempsey. So I'm share the screen like that and click over to that. So first prize tonight is the full composite cleaning pencil kit. Preserve it wax, pencils, refills, and that beautiful magnifying glass and coin clamp. Second prize is the full kit in a beautiful little containing box, including the coin cleaning pencil. I can't remember what it's called. Solution, that's the word. And the final prize is for the kit, the wax, and some refills, and one of Graham's mouse mats. So, Adrian, how many entries? Because there's a lot of little names on there.
We had over 500, so thank you everyone who entered. But that's correct entries. There were some people who made the mistake of putting the wrong answer. And the question was, what type of waxes are used in the composite cleaning pencil, cleaning wax? and I've forgotten the answer. It's
Microcrystalline.
yeah, it's microcrystalline, not natural or beeswax or monkey wax or whatever else the answers were. But yeah, so I think it's about 500 people got that right. So well done everyone for entering. Yeah, all good stuff.
So,
and thank you. Sorry, more importantly, thank you to Graham Dempsey for putting those prizes up. Very kind of him.
So we will spend them in order of the free prizes. First name out will win the full kit, and thereafter so on. So, without further ado, the winner of the first prize this week, James Spires. Well do, James.
Your email address, sorry, Dave, and you will receive an email from us tonight.
There you go. I was just about to ask you that. Second prize is Sean Flynn. Congratulations, Sean. Same thing to yourself. You'll be contacted by email.
And this is a worldwide competition. Sorry.
It certainly is. And finally, the last prize is John Biggs. Well done, Biggs. John Biggs. Well done, all three. No, that was Johnny Briggs.
Yeah. Oh. Well done, everyone. I remember that.
Yeah. Well done to all, and thank you to Graham. Now, there is a competition that is launching momentarily. Shane Holdcroft, the Staffordshire Searcher, will be drawing a competition via ourselves on the 14th of July. And let me just find the text to read it out to you. Now, this is a raffle, so it's a paid raffle. He's got 500 subs and he wants to do a giveaway. So if you head over to the Staffordshire Searcher on YouTube and subscribe, basically he's going to be doing the raffle, and the money raised will all be going to the Rodney Cook event. It'll be £1 a number, and unlimited numbers will run until the post closes on July the 11th. And drawn here on the 14th. So UK members only. First prize is a MindLab Profine 35. Second prize is a Nocta Macro Premier Shovel. Third prize, a composite cleaning pencil, including wax. And RCM baseball cap. Fourth prize, Garrett's Fine Boxing sticker pack and RCM snood. And fifth prize, an RCM t-shirt and sticker pack. If you head over to Big Detecting Show, Archaeology and Metal Detecting Magazine, or Staffordshire Searcher on Facebook, you'll find that post with the payment details, etc. And we will see you on the 14th of July to draw that. Also, can I just let you know, anybody wishing to purchase Detecticon tickets, you have 20 days remaining for that. So just Google Detecticon and you'll be able to find that. Yes, that's right, TC. That's all the public information, is it, Adrian?
Just one more. Rodney Cook Memorial Detecting Weekend charity event. Tickets were sold out, but those who registered for any reservations that came available, if they check their email, they might have been lucky to receive the opportunity to purchase some last minute tickets. So if you did register on the waiting list, you would have received an email yesterday. Last time I looked, only 50% of people opened, and those did buy the tickets. So there's a few left, a handful left. So check your spam, check your email. People don't in our hobby. They don't check their emails. They're on Facebook.
Don't in life, mate.
No, but they're on Facebook all the time, and unfortunately, Facebook isn't the be all end all of life, and email is. So yeah, check your email if you registered, and there's a link on there. Just click on it, and you can book the ticket and pay online and all that malarkey. But
well, this is a fantastic segue that you've just done there, Adrian, because our guest tonight, Mr. Hugh Newman, lives in Wiltshire near Stonehenge.
Oh.
And the Rodney Cook Memorial, which is a full weekender, first weekend in September, Hugh, which is just between Marlborough and Avebury, I think. Full weekender, probably 1,000 people over the weekend taking part there. I don't think Gary would be a problem with this. Would you like to come along for the day, Hugh? And Adrian can take you out detecting.
I would like to do that,
Here.
but I'm away then. Unfortunately, I'm away. Well, not unfortunately, I'm away in Turkey running a tour to Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe, which is some new research I'm doing as well on these particular sites.
That's more exciting than what you
Yeah,
with
fair
me.
play.
I can believe you mean. I've got one of them buggies to you drive around at that event, Dave. So I
Golf
won't be
buggies,
drinking
isn't
Oh,
it?
no,
No.
that I would like actually. In
Gator.
Turkey. Yeah, I'd like one of
Gator.
them.
Yeah, I've got a Gator. The Treasure Hunting magazine have got a Gator, so we'll be driving up to people and annoying them and talking to them. So, yeah, no, that's a
Scotty
shame.
B's bringing his own little
I
vehicle
know,
as well.
I know. My friend Maria Wheatley, who's actually at the conference up in Blackpool. She's doing a conference. I think the first weekend in September in Avebury, in the venue there.
Oh wow!
So you could probably harass them instead, and you know,
I might have to come and harass her at the conference. not like that though, obviously, because we know what happens there, don't we, Adrian?
Yeah.
turn up with the buggy.
If you do get a chance, though, Rodney Cook is a good. There's many other metal detecting rallies, but Rodney Cook, it's football. The money goes to charity, so they
Okay, that's
raise
cool.
between. I think they on average, and this year I'm hoping I've got a funny feeling it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be at least 50 or 60,000 raised in 2 days.
Wow,
For
And
cancer
100% of that
charity.
money all goes to charity.
Yeah.
that's incredible. Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
Bristol Hospital that Gary's. They've helped set up a cancer ward there at Bristol Hospital
Yeah.
in memory of his dad.
Yeah, there's a ward or a room at least named after his dad that's been fully funded by people metal detecting. So it's it's a great event, and all the money, like Dave said, and it just goes to show from our hobby how much good goes to charity. There's Detectable, money goes to charity. There's Just Detect, which helps the veterans. There's many others. Scotty B's Detecticon. But you don't hear about that in the media because it's all good news, and people only want to hear of people who found 2 gold sovereigns and not declared them and got arrested. But that's me being pedantic. So, they don't like the good news. But yeah, when you hear of stuff like that, it's all good. So,
There'll be definitely more events of that ilk in the coming years down that way, Hugh. So you're more than welcome. I'm sure Gary will say more than welcome to join us and have a mooch and a mince with Adrian.
I know. I want to try detecting. I've just because I've just not had a chance. I mean, number one, I haven't got a clue which metal detector to buy. This is possible.
That would be your best thing. Come out with people and have a look.
Just don't buy it off Amazon.
Okay, I'll be in touch because me and my partner, we're kind of quite, I mean, I like the idea. I mean, because we got quite into the Detectorist TV show. Obviously, that was kind of winner. But we've done it a bit before in the past, and like the stuff we're into, where we know places to go and look for stuff, and because trying to find giants in their armor and stuff like that, obviously, and which will be fun. As we know, very specific weird locations as well, so it'd be fun to get into it. To be honest with you.
Well, if ever you're down Essex, Hugh, give us a shout, and I've got a few.
Nobody comes to Essex, mate.
Which bit of Essex? Which bit of Essex are you at?
Chelmsford.
Oh yeah. I know. I used to live up that way. I used to live up in Colne Engane, which is just up the road from there. Yeah. I've got some friends down. I've got some good friends down that way actually. I don't know if you know Giles Bryant and Juliet Bryant. No, probably not.
Oh, has he got a car?
Has he got a car?
I was joking. No, sorry. No, I know the guy. He's got hair. It's there used to be a television series on BBC Two called Chelmsford 1, 2, 3, which was Romans. It's all about the Romans because there's a lot of Roman stuff around it.
You get all that down that area. For sure.
We're
for sure.
quite fortunate. Down here.
We have got quite a lot of Essex giants. I've got to be honest with you as well. Oh my god!
Look at his eyes light up.
I know it's crazy. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, more than we expected. I mean, just look. This is like the kind of southeast England kind of map.
Steve Newman.
There you go. Look at that. So you got quite a few in Essex and Hertfordshire,
Finchinfield. Oh,
Cambridgeshire, all over the place. See, it's quite a lot going on down that way. Oh my god! And I'm fascinated by it's like an area called Brent Pelham. I think it's Hertfordshire actually, which has got serious megalithic stuff there as well. You got the legend of Piers Shonks. It was like a 23-foot tall giant who protected the town from the devil, and he actually had to like battle with the devil and make a wager with him, and I think he made a wager that if he'd have to go to hell or whatever, but if he threw or shot this arrow and it landed outside or inside the church, he would have to go to hell. So he shot it on the wall of the church, and that was where he was buried, so he didn't go to hell. This is all you get a lot of these kind of stories in East Anglia, similar ones from like this legend of a giant killer called Tom Hickathrift, who was like up in North Essex, going into like Suffolk, I think, as well. So yeah, there's a lot of Essex is a weird place. No offense.
oh well,
Offence.
It's funny actually because there was a program on television I think last week or the week before about witches, and Dave, you watched it on BBC Two or
Yes.
BBC.
I told you about the Essex Witch Museum that you didn't know about.
Yeah, but Essex, there's a place near me called Gallywood, and it was called Gallows Wood, but developers bought it in the 70s and changed the name. But hundreds, absolute 400 or 500 people were hanged there. And at the end of my road, there's an old place that there was a well, and they used to chuck witches in there. And it was one of the most common places in the country for witches. And I think the reason being is that a lot of them were like homeopathic or did like different types of medicine, and anyone who was different got killed then. But there's so many witch things around here. My granddad, this is weird, and he was a normal guy. He ran a garage and he was a mechanic. He swears, well, I won't say to this day because he's been dead about 30 years, but when he was a kid, him and his mates went camping in the forest out Romford, sort of Havering way, and his friends went off to get firewood, and he stayed in the tent. And this is before like mobile phones and Instagram and all that. And he was probably reading a copy of the Bean or something. And a woman came in with a big pointed nose and a pointed hat, and asked him to go with her. And all right, she might have been a paedophile in the day or something, but he swore to this day she looked like a witch. And I thought, and this is like early 1900s, like 1915, and he always says, they do exist, and they probably did then. It was probably the end, a bit like punks today. You go down the high street 30 years ago, you saw them everywhere, and now you get the odd one, didn't you? But you do get a few, don't you?
You do.
They're normally on substances, but that's quite interesting. Sorry, me waffling on about Essex, but it is a weird place, but I like it because of that. It's different. You've got many different cultures and beliefs here.
Yeah, I mean, I did a whole research project on the kind of going for it's a place called Wandlebury in Cambridge, which I used to live near. And there's a line of stones and sites going south from Wandlebury down to Hatfield Forest, going through Littlebury, going through there's a stone called the Leper Stone, kind of near Saffron Walden kind of area, but not quite in Saffron Walden. Audley End House, there's a megalith there, just outside the front. There's opposite Audley End House in the hills there, you've got a hill fort as well. I think it's called Littlebury Hill Fort. And this is all in this alignment going down in Hatfield Forest. You've got a bunch of megaliths. In Littlebury, you've actually got the remains of a stone circle. And this is all down. It's basically parallel with the M11, kind of the A11, the old kind of road to London from Cambridge. So there's a whole load of stuff in that part of Essex, like North Essex, I guess, which is really interesting. And you also got the Pudding Stone tracks going through Essex as well.
I've heard of that.
Which are these kind of conglomerate, kind of gravel type stones, which were placed along these old tracks, which are really. I studied a bit of those. There's even I don't know if you know about the landscape zodiacs, like the Glastonbury zodiac. You've got one round. Where is it? The Ongar zodiac. Yeah. And you've got the Nothamsted Zodiac, which is more Hertfordshire, I think, going into Essex, Brent Pelham and all that. And so there's a lot of weird earth mysteries type stuff going on in that area, which a lot of people don't know about.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to getting your book and driving around like a idiot and pulling over and looking like at stuff. But yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. I like the way you showed us the book tonight and how it is like it's not a tour guide book, but it will be for me.
Yeah, no, it's a handy book. I mean, it's one of them. It's actually a really handy book just to have if you just want to go and visit some cool sites anywhere in Britain, kind of things. There's there's a lot of the sites you might that aren't going to be in normal guidebooks. They're kind of more obscure, but really, really odd and really interesting.
Do you find there's more interest from certain countries rather than others on giants?
That more interest, you say?
Yeah,
Or,
like is people in France or Turkey or Spain? I know you probably don't run analytics on what you sell, what of your books, because you just want to
no,
sell
I
them.
mean
But
to be honest with you, the main giant kind of area of where it's all happening is North America. There's a genuine phenomenon there, which is rich. It's not just the odd thing here and there. It's a rich lore, and it goes back a long time. We're talking 10, 12,000 years, even in North America, which people don't realize there's even a history that old there. But in Britain, I mean, it's just the fact that so many sites have giants associated with them in Britain. Named giants like Stonehenge was called the Giant's Dance, for instance. So, I mean, a majority of sites have giants associated with them. That's what's odd. And so why is that? But why is there? Why have that? What's the point? But then you look into the biblical stuff as well, which is really interesting. The whole Bible lands area, and you have all the stories of the Nephilim and the Anunnaki, or the Watchers, and some of these were giants. The Nephilim were certainly giants, and there's a kind of underground movement of this idea that this is talked about in the Old Testament. This is also talked about in one of the lost books of the Old Testament called the Book of Enoch. And also in the Book of Giants, there's another book called about the Book of King Og, which this giant ruler, the Canaanite ruler, was said to have written, which I've got, which is the craziest, darkest book I've ever read in my life. And genuinely, it's thought that there were giant people in kind of the Bible lands, and they're talked about in the Bible and written about, matter of fact. If you believe that the Bible, that is. And I'm not a religious dude or anything. I kind of just find it interesting when you find this kind of these things in these old texts in any form, because it's a weird thing to make up all this weird stuff which is kind of obscure and irrelevant, but it's actually really odd. And so yeah, the giant remains being found there. Giants are associated with very large megalithic sites like Baalbek in Lebanon, Jericho in Israel. Even Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe may have been the location where the Garden of Eden, where the Watchers were said to have brought civilization to 11,000 years ago. And this the whole story, this underground idea is that the giants, who were like the Nephilim, spread out from that area and made their way up through Europe to Britain and even to America. And their influence is what we find in the British Isles. They were actually influencing the kind of megalithic sites here, and building them and things like that. And the genetics, there's actually DNA evidence now of migration out of that part of the world around 7,000 years ago, and that ended up eventually in Britain and stuff like this. And so so that kind of thing intrigues me when you so there is this interest by Christians, interestingly, of all this stuff. There's a lot of giantologists who are Christians. Well, I know a bunch of them. We've become friends with quite a few of them. And so you have that side of it. It's maybe not location based. Well, it is a bit. It's the Bible lands, Israel and all that. But you have this kind of group who are kind of intrigued by that because it's talked about in their sacred texts.
I think
Very eye-opening.
Dave, I think we should do a book on porgs of the UK.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it's Tower Hamlets wording for people of restricted growth. In other words, small people.
Scotty B.
So they use that in Tower Hamlets in London because it's politically correct. So it's porgs, P-O-R-G.
That sounds
people
wrong.
Of restricted growth. Yeah, it does.
That sounds
so
worse.
Dave,
I thought
I think
pogs
we
were them little
Yeah.
circles with Star Wars characters in the bloody 90s.
Pogs. No, they're not pogs.
All right.
Pogs.
Oh, right, okay.
I think we've got Scotty B for the book, so we can start with him. He's what, 2'4"? So we can start
2'7" now.
2'7".
He's been stretched, yeah.
And he's what, 39. So we've got
42.
him for the book. So if we can see how we get on with it. But,
Proportionately, the difference between Scotty and Katrina would make her a giant.
yeah.
Oh,
Well, actually,
hang on. Someone's just asked, Keith Ellis, is that Stonehenge on the wall? I think he's asking. You mean this one up here? That's actually, I think, Karnak in Britain.
Do you know,
Yeah.
honestly, Hugh, I read something about Karnak the other day. First time it's come up to me in my mind for ages, Karnak. I thought I need to go there, and now Karnak again.
There you go. I think both of these pictures are Karnak, funnily enough. You know, I've actually got Göbekli Tepe little thing there as well. The little thing.
Do you know, I've got a row of books here. I've got Göbekli Tepe, the Denisovan Origins, the Stonehenge Giants.
I've
got Pendragon books. I've got Keys to Avalon, 4 or 5, 6 Eric von Daniken books. Got them all. Go way back.
Excellent.
I'm not cheating.
I was just looking at my bookshelf and just seeing if there's any. Oh, there's one book my wife has. Everything else is mine. Everything from modifying your Volkswagen Golf and Jetta, which I bought in 1988, but it cost so much money I don't want to get rid of it, right up to digital SLR photography for dummies, which I'm not really interested in, so I don't know why I got that out there. But the rest are metal detecting books and stuff. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it, bookshelves?
The hell, I've got Greek mythology, Bibles, archaeology of weapons, superstitions, Double Sunset, Oak Island, Arthurian legend, Knights Templar, Curious, this place, that place, Grail, cults and occults, Mysterious Britain, the Occultist book, all sorts.
My bookshelf now. There you go.
So, just before we end the show, on June the 24th to the 26th at Winter Gardens, I think it is the Blackpool Conference and Exhibition Centre, I'll be attending, and Hugh will be speaking along with Eric von Daniken. I never say his name right. Giorgio Tsoukalos, I hope that's right. Andrew Collins, who we've spoke to before, and we published an article from Andrew last night on Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine. Billy Carson, Johnny Enoch, Barry Fitzgerald, Paul Sinclair, Andrew Goff, Maria Wheatley, Steve Mira, a good friend of mine, Teresa Bullard-Wyke, and Richard Doty. So it's a fantastic 3-day lineup, all sorts going on. From your last conference, the megalithic one in May, how many people actually attended that? Because I've never been to anything that I would expect to have as many as there is at this one.
No, I mean, I think the one up north is pretty big actually for England. But I think, we have a capacity venue of like 220, 240, something like that. And we had a complete sellout this year. So it was good. It was a good, and plus we have a ton of friends and former speakers and crew there as well. So it was huge. It was really good fun actually. Yeah,
Adrian, road trip.
Trip. Yeah, we do that. We do that every May. So yeah, if anyone wants to come down and get into the megalithic.
My birthday in May. It's just after your birthday. Road trip.
Yes, actually, it's a good time for me.
Glastonbury.
Yes.
Glastonbury's a fun place.
We need to get a Messerschmitt bubble car or something like really like
to fit in. Yeah.
Yeah, something really like micro road trip.
A Hillman Imp.
Yeah.
Do a road trip in that.
Yes, I talk to you all day about them. I know a lot about them. They've got the coffin.
Yeah, I'm going home now.
Sorry. But thank you very much, Hugh, for coming on tonight. It's been really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah,
give a shout out to your website or what have you, Hugh, so people can go.
This is the other book, by the way. This is the previous book we did. It's actually got a giant mummy on the front cover. There you go. And Yeah, and the people want to catch me, they can just Google Hugh Newman, they'll find me as well. But there's megalithomania.co.uk. It's a bit of a mouthful. That's the main website for everything we do. I'm all over social media. The biggest thing we've got really is the YouTube channel. We've got a huge YouTube channel, like 950 bloody videos on there, of tons of lectures, explorations, giant stuff, interviews. We keep that kind of up to date. We've got 130,000 subscribers or something, and people want to check that out. Subscribe. We do a lot of cool stuff on there as well.
You do indeed. I've watched quite a few of them. Right. Well, Hugh, can't thank you enough for coming on tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I certainly have, and I know Adrian has, because he got more chatty as the night went on.
Yeah,
That's when he starts getting interesting.
My head was thinking. I was starting thinking.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, I appreciate it, and I'll hopefully see one or both of you in Blackpool.
You'll certainly see me anyway.
Okay, cool. All right.
I'm not allowed up there.
He's not allowed north of the Watford Gap. He gets drunk then. Proper beer these parts, you say.
No, I don't.
Here we go.
That's the problem.
Here we go.
2% lager. No, don't. I'm bitter and all that malarkey.
Do you know what, Adrian? We didn't say any of our normal phrases at all tonight. Don't say any. Let's leave them.
I'm not going to. It's all clean tonight.
It is clean.
Clean.
We'll blame Hugh for that.
As clean as the shaft of my glass. Look at that.
Oh, here we go. He's off. Right, everyone. Thank you all as ever, and we will see you same time, same place next week. Thanks again, Hugh, and we will see you all soon. Take care, everybody.